Okay, now that you're at the point of. Mm-mm. Okay, now that you're at the point of finishing up your paper and putting all the final touches on it, all that sort of thing, let's take a moment to briefly talk about who should be an author on your research paper. So this is research that you've been doing this semester, things that you've been doing on your own or through somebody else's lab or working with me or whatever else you've done. So this is probably one of the first times you're going to be able to choose who actually gets credit for the work that you have been doing. I'm going to use this latest or one of these journal versions just so you can see what people have done in the past and who gets authorship when, basically. So remember back to when we talked about authorship, I said that the person who has first authorship is the one that did all the work. The person who has last authorship is usually the person who spent all the money, and people in the middle are people who helped out in some way in a descending order of import. Okay, so in this case, like this first one here, they did this comparison of follicle mite collection methods. You can see that Madison McClintock was the first author. They got a little bit in trouble because they actually worked with a professor here on campus who gave substantial amount of time and let them use their equipment, and they did not give that professor authorship. So at some point in the future, once we get through the professor's sort of having a bit of a hissy fit, I'm going to post an errata, which is the error messages here, and add that professor in the authorship there. So you can usually check out some of these papers and see what they did. If you go to the materials and methods, here it says that they used a glass slide to remove mites from the forehead. They rinsed it with ethanol. They looked at it underneath a microscope. Whenever you have a paper, you use research where you don't have that material in your home, or you didn't go out and buy it yourself and do all this work like in your bedroom, then you need to give authorship to the professor. And so this is where the professor had a hard time, because these 5 or 6 people, however many there are here, 7, wow, actually went and took up time and space and money and all that sort of stuff from this person's lab. So by doing that, they automatically earn authorship. Even if they didn't do anything else, these students wouldn't have been able to run their project without having that access. So they need to give authorship. So think about where you did your research. If you did it in a lab, or you used equipment that a professor got for you, or even if you just went and talked to a professor and got some guidance and they helped you figure out materials and methods and then read over your paper, they deserve authorship. Again, remember, this is currency. This is basically you're paying that professor or that researcher for their time, not in money, but in publications. And since it doesn't really take away from your status at all as first author, give them authorship. It's really simple. So yeah, this is something we have to monitor. So I had to apologize to that professor, let the students know they forgot to leave put that professor on, and that it needs to be fixed. So the next time this publishes, I will fix that, put that professor on here, and they will get their authorship under errata. You can also look here. So this is a survey of mosquito larvae. In this case, this particular student did everything at home. They had their own microscope. They had their own traps. They did everything at their own house. They had these other people help them out, but they got authorship in descending order. So since they didn't use anybody's lab, they don't need a professor there. Done and done. So you want to look at the same thing. This right here, you will see this particular paper has me as the second author. This is because I was one of the professors on this study abroad, and Kiara here worked with me one-on-one. I helped her every single day. We walked through the materials and methods. I didn't do any of the writing, but I did some editing. So I got second authorship on this particular paper. So if you've gone on to study abroad, one of the professors that was there on the study abroad with you should get second authorship, because again, you wouldn't be on that study abroad without that professor. You wouldn't have done this on your own. You're using that professor's contacts, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's why I got second authorship there. The same thing happened here. Any of these Trinidad and Tobago ones, I have second authorship on because I was there. On this one in particular, there's one that has 2 authors in it, and that's because several people helped. So this is one where, again, I'm second author. In this case, Jillian came to talk to me about this project, did a lot of this work. I got her a lot of the equipment, so I got second authorship. So that's sort of the way it works. You can see it again down here. Shelby worked in Dr. Beamer's lab, so he got second authorship, or he got last authorship because it was his money. So sit down and think about the type of people that helped you. What did they do? What was the amount of work that they put in? Who paid for this stuff? Whose room did you use? Did you take up somebody's time? And since you're not paying them in money, pay them an authorship. And it is perfectly reasonable just to sort of throw people on here. If you remember back to when I said, when I talked about the really high impact journals and how everybody and their brother wants to be on a Nature or on a Science journal article. Yeah, it is. It can be kind of crazy sometimes. You'll see 30 or 40 authors on some of these things. And those ones buried right in the middle, they might have been just, the janitor that wandered through that day. But you're giving that person authorship as payment for something that they did. Maybe that janitor had to do extra work to clean up all of this mess that the scientists were making, and they just really went above and beyond, and so they're being honored and giving authorship as payment, basically. So think of it like that. So go through your work. Who helped you? Who paid for it? Who was there? Who do you think deserves authorship? And give them authorship, because again, it's no skin off your nose. If somebody did just sort of give you moral support and helped you out, they didn't do enough to meet that little bare minimum bar for authorship, you can put them in the acknowledgements. Those acknowledgements, if you go back and listen to that video, those are there for people who just really sort of helped you make it through by making you coffee that one day or whatever they did. Or maybe they proofread stuff, but they didn't actually give any substantial things, and there's no need to quote unquote pay them with authorship. So go through your stuff, figure it out, and make sure you err on the side of caution so we don't have to write an apology letter to a professor that you used all their money and space and time and then didn't give them authorship. Keep that in mind. All right, let me know if you have any questions.